Good evening and welcome to the November 6th meeting of the Lowell License Commission. Secretary Nguyen, was the meeting posted?
Yes.
Item agenda number 1, please.
First is the minutes from the meeting of the October 23rd, 2014.
Commissioner Krieger.
Yeah, I have a couple small points. When we list the people who are present for the meeting, I think the commissioners should be set off from Captain Thomas and Solicitor Veloso. So I'd suggest we put in after Terry McCarthy and Nancy McGovern, and then after Nancy McGovern and Captain Thomas Kennedy of the Lowell Police Department, et cetera, et cetera. My second item is a little further down. We talk about Tracy Martino of Aramark, and it says NERPG, but then it just says New England Plastics Group. There either needs to be a regional or something like that between England and plastics, or maybe the R is not supposed to be there. I don't know which.
Well, quite honestly, I never did find out from Tracy what exactly NERPG stands for, but what I can readily do and what I've done in the past is, I don't know if Tracy knows it offhand now. I'm sorry. Could you come to the...
Sorry, I don't know offhand what that means, but I could find that information out and get back to you on
Yeah,
that.
or sometimes what I do is I go to the UMass Lowell's website
Right.
and find it that way. But either way, I'm
Either
sure
way.
by tomorrow morning or by tomorrow at some point,
Thank you.
we'll have it.
And then we talk about Mr. Frederick Smith, and it says stated he anticipated 1,000 runners for the 5K event. I think we can dismiss the word "a."
I'm sorry. What was that again? I'm sorry.
Where we talk about the 1,000 runners down at Shed Park, it says, when asked by Chairman Dakota, stated he anticipated the word
Okay.
"a" doesn't need to be there.
So Mr. Smith.
No, in front of 1,000 runners. Yeah, Mr. Smith. And then further on, we talk about Mr. Torres and the city inspectors, and the sentence just struck me as a little strange. It says, Chairman Dakota commented about the report from city inspectors, having not heard of prior infractions, worries me a bit. I think worries me a bit needs to be recast somehow. It just doesn't quite fit with the sentence.
I think I was paraphrasing Ryan.
I could strike that if you want.
Strike
It
it.
doesn't worry him at all, I'm
I don't
sure.
worry about it. That's fine.
I'll work with that.
Got it.
Okay. And then the last item, when we're talking about changes, and paragraph 4.02, line 9, changing 12 noon to 10 o'clock, I think we had a fair discussion about the notification, filing, all that. And I think I just should say there was a discussion of the fact that stores were to notify their own change of hours, but not request permission, permission having already been granted. To sort of sum up that discussion we had.
I'm sorry, please restate that if you will.
There was a discussion of the fact that stores were to notify their own changes of hours, but not request permission, permission having already been granted.
Right, what I ought to, what I may state.
We can talk about it afterward.
Right, is that the state law allows for the 10 a.m., and the fact is that what the ABC is looking for, when a corporation has the liquor license, that they submit to the local authority an authorization from the corporation stating that they are going to proceed with a 10 a.m. opening, or something to that effect. I think it's just the ABC's way of making sure that, is that these corporations, sometimes they have many board of directors, and maybe some may not necessarily be on the same wavelength, the same page as to the idea of having their business open at 10 a.m. Maybe that's the corporation thing, is just to make sure we got something. But I will work with that as well.
Okay, my big thing was that we make it clear that they're not requesting, they're just recording.
Recording, yes.
Yeah, not requesting.
Motion by Commissioner Krieger to amend the minutes, seconded by Commissioner McCarthy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda?
Okay. Commission will now take up special one-day license application to dispense wines only. Brittany Savi-Bassani for Thursday, January 8th, 2015, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. for opening reception at the Air Lofts Gallery at 172 Middle Street.
Good evening. State your name for the record, please.
Brittany Savory Bersani.
Can you say that last name once again, please?
Savory Bersani.
Savory Bersani. Have you ever held one of these licenses before?
No.
Has Mr. Nguyen told you what your responsibilities would be?
Yes.
Okay. And who's your distributor for your wine only that night?
I don't know.
Ryan, can you help her out?
In the past, at the Air Lofts, has been an attraction for artists like Brittany in terms of offering a display of their work, art, and they want to offer and make sure that those people coming into view will have some wine.
I just
At
want to
the-
know who's supplying her wine.
So what she needs to understand, is knowing that the distributor, and I'm sure people that have had the events previously at Air Lofts can direct her to a proper source for her
Okay.
wine, rather than having you go to a package store.
Right, yeah, I know that I can't. do
That I think
Yep.
you understood.
Yeah, I know.
It's just, it's.
Yeah, I have to
isn't-
talk to Ted about it, because I just haven't
Yeah,
gotten
you
to.
just haven't settled on who you might want to go
Right.
to.
Yeah.
So
You
she has time.
Okay, you understand that, right?
Yep, I
Okay, that's
understand.
fine. And you understand if there's any problems at all, that you would call the Lowell Police, correct?
Yep, I know.
Any questions or comments from the board, please?
Just a minor note, if she has any issues in regards to a list of approved sellers, the ABCC does have a website, and one of the sections there has a list of approved sellers that people who possess special one-day licenses can purchase their alcohol from.
Okay, perfect.
you.
Thank you.
Secretary Nguyen, do you pass out any, do we have a distributor list that we do give people who have not had a license in the past?
I try to be, as Assistant Solicitor Belosa just pointed out, I try to make that known to the applicants, that's the resource they can look to for who the state has licensed as distributors. And I will make sure that Brittany has that at.
Yeah, I mean, local distributors, just so when somebody would have a,
See, that's the problem. With local distributors there's only maybe like one in the city of Lowell.
right,
That business is listed amongst those listed by the ABC
Yep.
as a source, and it's a beer distributor.
yeah, right,
And
okay.
I'm not so sure Brittany has that in mind with her
Okay.
wine.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
I move acceptance.
Motion by Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner McGovern. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Good luck with your event.
Thank you very much.
Commission will now take up special one-day license application to sell and dispense malt beverages and wines only, or either one. Tracy Martino of Aramark for Saturday, November 8th, from 5:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. for the Veterans Ball to be held at University Crossing, Maloney Ballroom at 220 Pawtucket Street. Also, Mark Claremont at 122 Western Ave for Friday, November 14th, from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. for the cabaret fundraiser for the Miracle Providers. And Mark Claremont has a second application at 122 Western Avenue for Saturday, November 15th, from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. for the cabaret fundraiser for the Miracle Providers.
Could you both state your name for the record, please?
Tracy Martino, Aramark.
Mark Claremont, Miracle Providers.
Thank you very much. Ms. Martino, you've had several of these licenses, no problems in the past, doing well over there?
Yes.
Great. Mr. Claremont, tell me about, what is Miracle Providers?
Miracle Providers is a nonprofit organization that raises funds for children impacted by HIV and AIDS. and we've been doing it for 20 years. Actually, we just had a liquor license in October for an event that we just got also.
All right, you've held one of these licenses before?
Yes.
Any problems in the past?
No.
Fantastic. Any questions or comments from the board?
Move approval.
Move approval by Commissioner McGovern, seconded by Commissioner McCarthy. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Good luck, both of you, in your events.
Thank you.
We have now, the next item is special one-day license application to sell or dispense all alcoholic beverages. Roberta Barnes at the Lowell Catholic High School for Friday, December 5th, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. for the alumni Christmas cocktail party to be held at McNamara Hall at 530 Stevens Street.
Correct.
State your name for the record, please.
Roberta Barnes.
Ms. Barnes, have you had one of these licenses before?
I haven't personally, but Lowell Catholic has.
Okay.
Yeah.
You understand your responsibilities?
Yes.
We're not going to serve Sister Laurie too many?
Sister Lauren, no. I don't think she'll be there.
Okay, all right. Any questions or comments from the board? Move for approval by Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner McGovern. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Good luck
Thank
with your
you.
event.
Thanks.
Number 5 on the agenda is public amusement applications from Global Spectrum. Keith Vasky is the general manager for events at Lowell Memorial Auditorium, 50 East Merrimack Street, starting with Wild Kratts, Saturday, November 15th. There is 2 shows, one at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and the second is at 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Also, Straight No Chaser. Will there be anyone here representing Lowell Memorial Auditorium? Apparently not. I thought there would be. I was expecting somebody to be present. Do you want me to proceed with the reading? I was told that there would...
Let's table it to the end of the agenda.
I'm sorry?
Let's make a motion to table this to the end of the agenda.
We move it
Okay.
to the end of the agenda.
Okay.
Motion by Commissioner Krieger, second by Commissioner McCarthy. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. Application for license for secondhand articles, clothing. Roberson here? Okay. This is for May 1st through April 30, 2015. Joverson Silver, doing business as Connection Wireless for premises at 665 Central Street.
Secretary, can you give me some background on this? Didn't we just have a license pertaining to this address?
Mr. Silva, standing before you now, has a business at 665 Central Street. He's been located there, from what he tells me, for 11 years.
Correct.
Okay.
And speaking with him about his application, he submitted a copy of a letter from his landlord in which he does not have a lease agreement, but he's been a long-standing tenant and tenant in good standing. And so their agreement between Mr. Silva and the landlord is a tenant at will. He apparently has interest in selling secondhand wireless
Yep,
phones?
electronics, yep, computers and cell phones.
Okay, computers and cells.
These repaired at your location, or do you buy these from other individuals? How does it?
Oh, no, I'm authorized to buy like from a lot of sources, like I have Boost Mobile, Sprint, but I also want to buy like secondhand electronics, like computers and stuff, like parts.
I understand that, but are you repairing, or
Yes.
you are
Yep.
repairing on site?
Mhm.
Okay.
So what he needs to understand, and what I've explained to him, is that with our city ordinance, there is a protocol these licensees have to follow with the Lowell Police Department. Specifically, I can't tell you what that is, but they have to inform the Lowell Police each and every time a customer would walk through his storefront, into his store, if he or she has a secondhand computer or a secondhand cell phone they want to offer him to sell, which he may buy, but he has to understand that he has to record specific information to be passed on to the Lowell Police about the seller.
You understand that,
Do you
Mr.
Yes,
Silva?
yes, I do.
Keeping records of that?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the reason I want to have the license, you know, because a lot of people come to sell, I never buy because I don't have a proper license to buy it.
Right.
That's the reason I want to have the license, and I know we have to report to Lowell Police every day.
Understandable. Questions or comments from the board? Move for approval by Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner Hogan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Good luck with your business.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night.
All set, Brian. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay, Commission will now open a hearing on the allegations from William M. Taylor, the Superintendent of Police, that Camilla LLC, doing business as Reservations George A. Torres manager, the all-alcoholic beverage restaurant licensee, was in violation on October 9, 2014, of License Commission Regulations Section 1.06 and Section 1.16 of the Alcohol Beverages Regulations for Licenses issued by the Lowell License Commission, which relates to the findings outlined in the communication from the building commissioner, from the deputy chief of fire prevention, and the senior code officer, which is dated October 15th, 2014, of their inspection of Reservations Lounge.
Counselor, state your name.
Good evening, Attorney John Mello, representing Camila LLC, doing business as Reservations, here with George A. Torres, manager.
Counselor, would you like the complaint read into the record?
No.
Thank you. Floor is yours.
Well, I reviewed the documentation given to me by my client and kindly forwarded to me by Secretary Wynn. I'm kind of at a loss as to what the specifics are. These allegations are a broad variety of allegations, and I think somewhere in here, and I will address the specifics, complaints over a 3-year span. But I have no dates, I have no incident reports, and it's very difficult for me to do my job without that specific information. Essentially, what I think happened here was there was a fire monitoring system at the premises that stopped sending a signal. So the proper officials went down there, George Torres went down there, and sure enough, this fire system wasn't sending the signal, and he was shut down as a result of it. I believe this occurred on October 9th. On October 10th, he contacted Mammoth Fire. They came down, they did a systems check. They found everything was okay and that the problem was with Comcast. He contacted Comcast. On October 10th, Comcast came down, found that there was a faulty modem, and fixed the modem, and everything was back up and running. He then contacted a city official to reopen on the 10th, but received no call back, so he was subsequently closed Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, because that was the long weekend. I believe the following Wednesday, or the 16th anyway, they came down to re-inspect. Not only did they re-inspect the fire system, but the Lowell Board of Health was there and did a routine inspection, which Reservations passed and was given the appropriate certificate. So I know that this stems from a fire alarm system that wasn't sending a signal, but my concerns here are that in the October 17th, 2014 letter to this commission, it states that the violations were so egregious that the certificate of occupancy was revoked on or about October 9th. The premises was not allowed to reopen until October 16th. So the violations I would assume they're talking about are attached as Exhibit A, and it was failure to maintain a fire alarm system, which was corrected within 24 hours. And then there was a lighting device, which I think was a floor lamp, in the way of an egress path. There was some curtains on the wall that needed to be taken down, and that's about it. The first violation, the fire alarm system, and continuous monitoring of alarm, and it says see attached. I don't have any attachments, so I don't know what that means. But I imagine that the egregious offense was this fire alarm system that failed to monitor because of a bad modem from Comcast. And then in the October 15th letter that was sent to this commission, the third paragraph, over the past 3 years, Reservations Lounge violations have included numerous issues, from blocked means of egress to non-operational emergency lighting to unmonitored fire alarm systems. I have no information regarding that. When did these violations occur? I mean, over the past 3 years, they're bringing it up now. The Lowell Fire Department has reported that the establishment has refused entry to fire officials that were on site to perform compliance checks. When? Where are the reports to substantiate those allegations? Additionally, employees and patrons did not evacuate the building in response to the triggering of the fire alarm system. Emergency personnel were also barred from entry during this incident. Again, when did this happen? We have, on several occasions, closed the premises for critical life safety measures and critical sanitation violations. The only sanitation violation I was able to find, and I was away on vacation, I apologize, I only got back on Tuesday, so I did as much as I could. But in 2012, December 27th to be exact, Reservations was an emergency closure for health concerns in the kitchen. So I don't know what these allegations are substantiated by. They might very well be correct, but unfortunately I don't have any information that allows me to address that. All I know is that we're here because a fire alarm system failed to register.
Thank you, Counselor. I'm looking in the audience here. I think I see Mr. Willett, Mr. Shanahan, and Fire Inspector Gilligan. Could you approach the lectern, please? And if you all could just state your name for the record, please.
Tom Gilligan, Deputy Chief, Lowell Fire Prevention.
Sean Shanahan, Building Commissioner.
David Willett, Senior Sanitary Code Enforcement Officer.
Thank you, gentlemen. In reading the complaint from Superintendent Taylor, in the second paragraph, as well as several refusals on the part of management to cooperate with city officials, Attorney Mello just brought up a point. Is that refusals on that particular day, or are we talking past, gentlemen?
In the past.
Could you speak into the lectern, please? Thank you.
That's in the past.
That's in the past.
Yeah.
So for this particular incident, were you told by Mr. Torres or any of his associates at the bar that you could not enter his establishment?
This incident, it was just a failure to communicate. We were trying to get in contact with Mr. Torres at that time for quite a while.
Okay.
We did not want him open while the fire alarm system was not being monitored. So this is over a period of months.
Okay.
I had printouts from the alarm company that they could have gotten just as easily as I did.
Okay. I guess my next question is that it seems like this has been on numerous occasions. And I don't know if warnings have been issued to Mr. Torres, but nothing has come in front of this license board to the extent. Mr. Shanahan, would you like to?
Every year, as you guys know, in December, we do a certificate of inspection, which allows them to renew their liquor license. We start that procedure in September. Going to this local establishments, finding exit lights out, doors locked improperly, blocked egress, and kind of the soft way, get it in order, let's go, we gotta be ready to get them passed for December 31st. All 3 years that I've done this location, we've always been right at the bubble, last minute. Usually in the first set going out in September, and almost one of the last ones to get passed in the end. All the way down to curtains hanging, which, we're told on numerous occasions, can't hang a curtain unless it's fire rated. We walk away, the curtains go back up.
Is it the difficult time to get in touch with Mr. Torres? I know his hours are not, Thursday, Friday, Saturday type of thing. Do we have a cell phone number to get in
I have
contact?
a cell
or
phone
off
number.
hours?
I have his cell phone number.
Yeah.
He answers when it's very convenient for him.
Okay, so safe to assume that each time that we've gone for inspections, it hasn't happened on the first or second or third try. Is that safe to assume, or?
Safe to assume.
Okay. Commissioners, questions and comments, please. Commissioner Krieger.
Yes, for Attorney Mello and Mr. Torres. A couple of meetings ago, I think I mentioned something about looking into mentoring for Mr. Torres, because it appears that he's come through sort of a cultural doorway, and he's having trouble operating with us. Have you done anything about that?
Yes, actually, Mr. Torres had taken the advice of this board and the referral of Secretary Wynn, and he contacted JBS Professional Services, specifically at Jim Staples. Jim Staples was not able to book anything with reservations until December, but something is booked for December 8th and December 9th. They're a company, a professional services company that mentor, liquor licensing and establishments that sell alcohol. So that is scheduled for December.
All right. The other place you could look, I think, is there's an organization that meets on Wednesdays called SCORE, Service Corps of Retired Executives. And I talked to Terry Williams from the Merrimack Valley Small Business Association, number 978-322-8400. They're on Middle Street. Maybe there's someone there who can volunteer to work with Mr. Torres to make sure he's up to speed. In my previous existence, mentoring was a big thing. People were responsible for helping other people learn how to play the game. And it seems to me that is very important here. It seems to be falling through the crack.
Well, again, I mean, it's very difficult for me to address the specifics since I'm only hearing them tonight. I did know that this stemmed from a monitoring issue. I have no specifics as to prior refusals, so on and so forth. Of course, Mr. Torres only answers the phone when it's convenient for him. I think we all do. But as far as...
I'm sorry, I answer the phone all the time, even when it's inconvenient. But to cut to the chase for me, I want Mr. Torres to be a shiny new penny, and I think that if he's a shiny new penny, then other problems will tend to go away.
I agree with you.
We need to do all we can to make sure he is a shiny new penny.
And I appreciate that. I have taken down the information this commission has given me relative to Terry Williams, and he will reach out to them. He had taken this commission's advice last time and reached out to JBS Professional Services. He wants to help himself, and he wants to continue to do that. So he will adopt any recommendation made by this commission, and he will follow it through.
I want to come back to Mr. Willett, Mr. Shanahan, Inspector Gilligan. Now, we have talked about the repeated offenses in the past. Can you enlighten us a little bit on what has been repeated, and you've gone back and the same offenses happen?
Repeated offenses would be curtains that are not flame retardant or do not meet a flame spread rating required by the state law. We've had taken down numerous occasions, put back up again.
So let me ask you, Mr. Shanahan, so you go, let's say you went to see Mr. Torres in an October or November type of thing, all right? The curtains are there.
Yep.
Do you go back at all during the year, or do you wait till next November and then find those same curtains hanging again?
Oh, no, we go back before December 31st. We'll go back and re-inspect, and we will not inspect until it's correct. Sign off on it until it's correct. So we'll come back sometime,
So just for clarity, I just want to make sure we're talking apples and apples and oranges here. Have you had repeated offenses concerning the curtains? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. What other repeated offenses?
Blocked means of egress, slide locks on rear doors.
Can you expound upon that?
Blocked
What
means of
egresses?
egress, in other words, a passageway, an aisleway, which would be an emergency exit for
What
patrons.
what has been there in the, for blocking?
Stools, makeshift tables, a dance table.
So when you brought these repeated offenses to Mr. Torres's attention, what was his answer to you?
He generally corrects them, But we can go back 5 days later, and it's the same way. So it's just repeated.
Mr. Willett, do you have anything else to add to Mr. Shanahan's comments?
Most of my end is when I show up because of the reports of the fire and police and building, and we do extra inspections of the kitchen and of the premises. It's been pretty dirty, pretty messy. So back quite a ways ago, I took away use of his kitchen months and months ago, and then he applied even for a folk festival to see if he could serve food. And I said, "You don't even have a kitchen. Your stuff is." It was still that dirty. We went back for these inspections. Everything was still pretty close to the way it was. There was bugs in the liquor bottles. There's a lot of sanitation issues there with everything. And again, we've mentioned it over and over and over, so that's why he's allowed to stay open because a liquor establishment, as long as you have chips or pretzels or something like that, you can keep your food permit. But I took away his right to serve any type of food till he can actually pass an inspection, which he hasn't been able to pass.
Let me just go back to what you just said. Now, you're saying you had bugs on the liquor bottles. Well, that's an issue with me right now.
Yes. That was on our last inspection.
All right. I feel as if that should have been brought to this board if, in fact, you're finding bugs on liquor bottles that are being served to patrons. I would hope that next time you see something like that, that's brought to this board's attention. Inspector Gilligan, concerning the fire alarm, has this been a repeated offense as well?
Yes, I can give you a copy of their alarm report, private alarm report we got.
Is this
6 or
something
7
happened last year, the year before?
Since 2013, either the systems failed to test, which means if there's a fire, no one's coming.
When did your first offense happen? In 2013, what month?
Yeah.
What month?
I'll get it here for you. February.
All right, you went back again on?
Yeah, they try and get a hold of him. He's not open every day, so.
Yep, I understand that.
So they call and they keep a running tally of when they try and call him, that doesn't call back or whatever. And from then till now, the system's been either failed or in trouble.
How many times?
Which means?
How many times?
Continuous.
Continuous.
There's only a short period of time when it's been fully functional.
How many times did you try to get in touch with Mr. Torres?
They do, and then they call us, and we do. Every time they call us, we try and call him. And then usually after prodding,
Yep.
then it's back online.
Thank you, Inspector. Attorney Mello?
We also have
sorry, go
incidences of him trying to reset the system himself, of us going there, and a couple of times, it took 2 or 3 times to tell him to empty the building. People still in there. He uses a fog machine, which is against state law. Other incidences.
Concerning patrons not being evacuated, again, I'm not here to scold anybody, but that's something that needs to be brought in front of this board as well. That's a responsibility of the manager to make sure that the patrons are
correct,
set outside the door. So I want to make sure that the city's doing the job and making sure that the manager is doing his job. For us not to know anything about that, I mean, it's difficult for me to tell Mr. Torres, I'm going to slap him on the wrist here. So I would hope that we're doing our part, and especially if it's repeated offenses. I'll ask Attorney Mello to step to the lectern in a second, but if these are repeated offenses, this board should be well aware of what's going on. And if we need to close the place, we'll close the place. Attorney Mello?
Again, as far as it being repeated offenses,
Okay.
this is the first time I'm hearing about it.
Mr. Torres? These gentlemen have said that they have tried to contact you many times in the past, and it seems like when it's at your convenience. Can you speak to that?
I brought phone records today.
You brought phone records?
Yes.
Attorney Mello?
Yeah, the phone records that Mr. Torres brought were relative to this, the October 9th incident. The amount of times he was called by the city, the calls that he made back to the city, They don't go to anything prior to that.
Let me ask,
Sure.
through you to your client. The three gentlemen back there have said that they've had repeated offenses in the past and have tried to get in touch with Mr. Torres in the past unsuccessfully. Is that true, Mr. Torres?
Yes or no?
No.
No. Okay. Commissioner Krieger.
Mr. Mello, does your client have a phone where he can program in numbers and put names against them?
Yes.
Well, then, I'd like to suggest that you collect the numbers that the fire department and the health department use and put those names against them so that when the phone rings, it pops up that he knows who's calling him and he can't just pass it off as a nuisance call. And that would reduce appearances here.
Commissioner McGovern. Commissioner McCarthy.
To the inspectors, what's the status now of the restaurant? Is it closed?
It's open.
It's open?
No, the food part is closed. His bar part is open, the establishment, the lounge part is open, but the food part is closed. He just carries chips to keep his food permit.
Where are the bugs on the liquor bottles?
Well, it was during the last one, and one of the reasons is it's that you don't see so much documentation. Part of our thing is we try to work with the businesses, so every time that we've come across something, he has taken care of it on the spot. So if we found something in a bottle, he's taken that bottle off the shelf and stuff. So we have been trying to work with them, and that's why some of the documentation, but I promise you, after they just came in saying how they're saying it, you will have full documentation of everything that happens in that business from this point forward. You won't have a problem with that. So I guess it didn't help us for working with them. But we will be.
Just from my own personal experience in the bar business, if I had bugs on one of my liquor bottles, I would have fired the bartender right there and then.
Correct.
And?
Well, we just know that there's a sanitation issue there, so we're working on it.
I guess what I'm saying, if we have repeated offenses for fire alarms, or bugs on bottles, or egresses, or curtains, I want it brought before this board. Because
Everyone in the
Mr.
future.
Torres has been in front of this board on concerning different incidences that have been, complaints that have been brought forward by the police, and this is just another one. I understand that he's gonna be getting some mentoring help, but I'm losing my patience. Okay? And as the chairman of this board, we're not gonna have establishments run by managers who are not doing their job. Plain and simple. So I'd ask your gentlemen's attention to this matter. If you need to visit him once every 2 weeks or once a week, go for it. And Mr. Mello, I'll be waiting to hear an update concerning mentoring with Mr. Staples or through SCORE in December, and I'd like a report 3 months after that on how he's doing, if he's not here before the board again.
3 months after the JBS appointment?
Please. Any other comments from the board? And make a motion to put this on file, record it at this point until we hear. I'd like to have, Ryan, why don't we give Mr. Mello 3 months, so we're looking at March to bring back Mr. Torres. I'd like an update on how he's doing, and maybe something from either Mr. Staples that you're going to go through or from SCORE to see how Mr. Torres is progressing. So we should see Mr. Torres and Mr. Mello here in March sometime. Seconded by Commissioner Krieger. Mr. Mello, you have something to add?
I do. Just to address the specific violations that reservations was brought before this board on, it was 1.06 and 1.16. I understand that 1.06, compliance with all laws and regulations, but it's the 1.16 manager's responsibilities. I think that section is being brought because of the sentence that states, "The manager shall cooperate in all ways with city officials in ensuring safe and orderly facilities." But every sentence around that sentence deals with order and decorum, indecency, disorder, prostitution, misconduct, gambling, and calling the cops if there are fights and such.
Understood.
Okay. So I didn't know whether or not there are
I'm
any...
going to take both of the Is that 1.06 and 1.
1.16 and 1.06.
And place them on file at this point. Attorney Veloso, Attorney Rossetti, you have a problem with that at all, or is that?
We have no issue. I think it should just be noted that, again, this is yet another instance of this establishment seemingly not complying with the rules and regulations. I'd note that I disagree with Attorney Mello's interpretation of 1.16. I'd say that repeated violations of both the fire code and the sanitary code would constitute misconduct, particularly given that it's a violation of state codes, and certainly poses a danger to both the health and safety of patrons and various persons, both in the establishment and around the establishment itself.
Noted, thank you. Anything to add, Mr. Mello?
That's all. I mean, just to close, I mean, every gentleman standing here behind me, without them, we'd be in chaos and anarchy. So they're only doing their job, and they do their job well. Mr. Torres will do whatever it takes to work with each one of these individuals to make sure that he stays on the right track. That's not the issue. It just makes my job difficult when I have to defend against accusations that just aren't documented, because I basically show up to whatever they've got waiting for me. So I don't mean any disrespect or ill will to anyone that's here. I totally understand that sometimes in their capacity they have to work with local businesses. They have to work with local businesses and try to do so in an amicable fashion. And of course, they show up and they say, hey, George, listen, these curtains aren't the fire code, take them down. I totally understand that that doesn't get reduced to writing sometimes, and they're cutting him a break. But I didn't know that coming into this. They had, these documents had mentioned violations going back 3 years, and it's difficult for me to put things in an orderly fashion and address violations specifically and have an explanation for everything.
Understood.
Okay.
Just to note that the fire department and the building code department will be doing their duty. So we hope that Mr. Torres will be doing his as well in a responsible manner.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you for coming here tonight.
Thank you, guys.
The next item on our agenda is number 8, with respect to informational hearing scheduled by the License Commission regarding what the business plan in 2015 is by the licensee ASDK Ram Corporation, doing business as Ramos Package Store, Sanjay M. Patel Manager, which is the all-alcoholic beverage package store licensee for number 77 Branch Street.
Good evening, Counselor. State your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Gregory DeMarcus. I'm an attorney with offices in Lynn, Massachusetts, and to my right is Sanjay Patel. He's the manager of ASDK, and he is also the owner of the real estate, DK Ram LLC. And what's going on is, we're all aware of the tragedy that took place. What's going on is that Mr. Patel has hired an architect, and the architect has completed some plans for the rebuild of the building. We're still not at the point where we've gotten the insurance proceeds from the insurance companies. That's still being negotiated, but it's very close. I would say sometime before the end of the year that piece should be done. Mr. Patel has also been meeting with his lender, Rockland Trust Company, with regard to refinancing the rebuild of this building. The building's going to be built in the exact same footprint as before, and it's going to be, again, there's going to be a liquor store on the first floor and apartments on the upper floors. We've already appeared before the ABCC and gotten a waiver of 6 months for the payment of the distributor's bills, so they wouldn't be posted delinquent. And they've told us that we can come back and report on our progress, and, when we tell them what the opening date will be, they're willing to give us another waiver. But at this point, we have a waiver till about March. We expect to break ground in spring. And then we expect that it's going to take another 120, 150 days after that to complete the building. So he's working hard on it. We have plans today. He's got the financing all lined up. Where, the negotiation with the insurance companies is, it's just necessarily complex, but it's almost done. We're proceeding apace. We've covered all of the bases, and we're hopeful that we're going to break ground in spring and be open 4 or 5 months after that.
Thank you. Well, it's good to see that we're going to be rebuilding and be some extra housing as well for citizens of the city of Lowell. So you have been to the ABCC and you have a 6-month waiver at this point, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Questions, comments from the board?
Are you going to need another 6-month waiver for construction completion?
We're probably going to have to go back in front of the ABCC. They're aware of it, but they didn't want to give us a 1-year waiver. They said come back in 6 months. They wanted us to report on where we were. When we went, you went in September, I think?
Yeah, it was too soon.
With Joe, yeah, it was too soon for us to be able to tell them the things that we're telling you today. Mm-hmm. We know a lot more now than we did then. We didn't know when we would get the insurance proceeds. We didn't know exactly what the plans were going to be. He's spoken to several architects. And now we've got a pretty much concrete idea of what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. So they just said, come back in 6 months and report. But they're amenable. They indicated they would be amenable to giving another
Understandable. Secretary Wynn, if we're looking at a 6-month waiver and then we're looking at building, we could be looking at October, November of next year, possibility of opening, that type of thing?
That's what we're looking at.
How would we proceed the same way, Ryan, or how, does
Well,
Mr.
I would say to the board, and to directing the point being to the attorney, DeMarcus, and to Sanjay Patel, is that, first and foremost, during the month of November of each and every calendar year, a licensee has to file a renewal application. Yes. And I trust that will be filed between now and November 30th.
Okay.
For the renewal of that license. And in that license, there is several questions about, in signing the renewal by the principal, the manager of record, or the corporate officer, is that individual attests to being either open for business, or if not, if closed, then to give a statement of reason for its closure. So long as that is filed and it's noted that it is, closed or something to that effect, the commission can then proceed to process the renewal and, as approved in the normal course for calendar year 2015, it would be necessary at some point for the licensee to come back to the License Commission for a public hearing for the, one way of defining it would be in the language of the Alcohol Beverages Control Commission is an alteration of premises. In other words, they would have to get approval by this commission before the ABC has a look at it.
Something like we did with the CCA, right? That type of thing?
Right. What they can do, and I'm sure the attorney is well versed in the situation, in that they can file an application for this alteration with the plans they presently have for the License Commission to approve, and then send that approval to the ABCC.
I understand. Okay.
And then, after the completion of the building, if there has been some alteration of the plan in the way in which it was originally intended, and maybe some differences that they might want to have after the plan has been originally submitted to the boards for its approval, they come back before the commission, to ask for approval on whatever may have changed with the original plan submitted. Otherwise, all they need to do is wait for the ABC to approval on the
With the waiver,
alteration.
with the waiver from the ABC, and with us giving him a waiver, are there monies to be paid before for the 2015 license?
Well, can I just clarify one thing on the waiver? The ABC is granted to the corporation
Right.
that holds the liquor license. It's specifically to do with the distributors.
Yes, I don't want to, I may not have been clear. So we wouldn't get posted on the distributors, but, posted on the
Understand,
delinquency
right.
list. We went in front of the ABCC and we asked for a waiver to pay the distributors, and they said 6 months. We asked for 1 year, but they said, no, 6 months, and come back in 6 months when you know what's going on. But no, Mr. Wynn's correct. This is a different situation.
And so what he needs to do, what the licensee, I should say, needs to do, they have to, and this is the ABC recognizes this first and foremost, any change in the description of the premises has to be approved by the local board first. It all has to originate with the licensing board in the city or town where the licensee holds its license. And then it's up to the ABC to give its approval after the local board has approved it. So for all intents and purposes, what I'm essentially trying to say is, and I don't mean it to, it's just that he has to get your approval for the new building they're going to erect. He
Right.
can file the application before the building is erected, or he can do it after the building is erected. In any ways, by filing his renewal during the month of November, he's protecting his rights to the license for calendar year 2015. That would be in compliance with state law. And then giving reason for being closed in that renewal application, acceptable to the licensing board, then in anticipation in 2015, an application would be filed for either premises to be erected or for structure already existing.
So that's all he's here, basically, all we're here to is give permission for him to erect the building.
What you're basically, see, if this licensee, let's say, never
Because
came
it's
to
the
you.
same address, that's what I'm trying to get by here. I mean, he's erecting a new building, understandably, but we have the same address.
He doesn't have a building right now.
Right.
He's not entitled to, without premises, he's not entitled to a license.
Gotcha, all right.
So now what we're trying to do is work with the statute, with the law,
Yep.
to protect his rights to that license. And that's all I'm trying to point out here. He has a right to that license so long as he files his renewal,
Understood.
and then we can go from there.
Yes, he has the renewal form, he is going to file it.
Okay.
And we're just not quite ready to file the alteration of the premises because we don't have the construction contract, what the cost of the job's going to be, so, because we have to show the sources of the financing. We're not quite at that point, but
Okay,
we're getting
Commissioner
close.
Krieger?
Is the license for next year prorated, based
There's
upon
no-
when it's open and when it's not open?
None of the annual license fees for alcohol beverages are prorated.
Right.
If
I'm
it's
sorry, you say they are.
They're not.
They're
There are
not.
no prorated annual license fee. So if you're issued a license in December of 2015 for that calendar year, you pay the full amount.
So let's how should I word this, Attorney Veloso? Making a motion to allow the licensee to erect the building at 77 Branch Street, or are we just pushing this over, Ryan?
I would just say you don't need to do anything other than it's only an informational hearing. You're
Right.
getting some information based on what the attorney has told you, which gives you, in your mind, in the board's mind, a basis for when he files his renewal application.
Right.
Then we just
All
proceed
right,
with.
okay, I understand now. Thank you.
Secretary Wynn is correct. Until an application has been submitted, the board has nothing to consider at this point.
Right,
So
right, yeah.
once the.
No building, there's nothing for, right, I got you, all right.
Correct.
All right, we understand.
Okay.
We appreciate you being here. The best of luck in getting this back up to where it was before. I mean, good to see the housing again, as I mentioned, and good luck with the process.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
I forgot, it's like no building, so, yeah, of course not.
Number 9 on our agenda is just a matter of minor, well, not a minor situation, but just the fact that there was an application had been filed with the License Commission Office for transfer of the all-alcoholic beverage restaurant license. The application is filed by a corporation known as LCRC Inc. to do business as Dudley's, and Matthew J. McCarthy is the president of that corporation. And it's coming from the licensee Hookslide Kelly's LLC, doing business as Hookslide Kelly's, and Matthew J. McCarthy, manager of record, one and the same individual, who is president of LCRC, for premises at 19 Merrimack Street, 139 Page Street, and also includes number of rooms on the first floor and basement, as well as outside cafe on the Page Street side, as well as the side facing Merrimack Street. This application has been filed. It gives the appearance of complete application. I recommend that the commission ratify a publication of the legal notice for Lowell Sun newspaper tomorrow, November 7th, for a hearing to be held on November the 20th. In this hearing, the applicant is not required to notify the abutters. It's just a publication of the legal in accordance with statute.
So all we're doing is for a public hearing, right?
Yeah, it would be for November 20th.
November 20th, yep. Make a motion for a public hearing on November 20th, seconded by Commissioner Krieger. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Also, the office received a license issued in 2014 in April for an old gold, silver, and platinum. The licensee, Senna Ken and Anthony Ken, which doing business as STK Cash for Gold, premises at 209 Chelmsford Street, of their own volition, surrendered that license for cancellation on October the 31st. They're closed for business, and I just brought that to the board's attention for their ratification.
Thank you. Secretary Wynn, I know agenda item 11, and we have some people here for items 12 and 13. I'd like to make a motion that we move agenda item number 11 to the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Seconded by Commissioner Krieger. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Secretary Wynn, agenda items 12 and 13. Prior to hearing them, I would like to make a motion that this board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing litigation strategies at this point. I need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner McCarthy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
I will
Any
need to
opposed?
do a roll call.
Oh, please, thank you.
Okay, so on that motion and the second, Chairman Dakota,
Yes.
Commissioner Krieger,
Yes.
Commissioner Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarthy,
Yes.
and Commissioner McGovern.
Yes.
All in favor? Motion
Signify by
passes.
saying aye. If we could convene to the mayor's reception room at this time?
Okay. It's 7:30 PM. I also should point out that the commission will reconvene the regular meeting after the executive session. The chair wishes entertain a motion to return to regular session meeting.
I'd make a motion that we return to regular session.
Second?
Seconded by Commissioner Hogan. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Chairman Dakota.
Oh, you need a roll call, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
roll call.
Yes.
Chairman Dakota.
Yes.
Commissioner Krieger.
Yes.
Commissioner Hogan.
Yes.
Commissioner McCarthy.
Yes.
Commissioner McGovern.
Yes.
So voted. Agenda item number.
Put your mic on.
Agenda item number 12. Commission will now open a public hearing on the application for transfer of the all-alcoholic beverages restaurant license by Mill City Ballroom, Inc., Joel Asadorian, President, from the corporation known as Beck's, Inc., doing business as Brian's RV Hall, Kevin Hayhurst, President, for premises at 74 Merrimack Street, third floor only, ingress and egress along north and south stairwells, one room for bar, restaurant, nightclub, approximately 4,400 square feet. It is proposed that Joel Asadorian be approved as manager of record for Mill City Ballroom, Inc. Mill City Ballroom has applied for the following other applications: for common vittler, entertainment and licensed restaurant, for live music, disc jockey, jukebox. And I'll just note further, the License Commission will, if they wish, will vote on whether to enter into executive session to comply with or act under the authority of Mass General Law, Chapter 6, Section 172.
State your name for the record, sir.
Joel Asadorian.
Mr. Asadorian. You have something to say prior to opening up the public hearing?
No, I'm just here to answer any questions or concerns that you
Okay.
guys might have.
All right, at this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Anybody like to speak in favor? In favor, please come to the lectern. Good evening. State your name for the record.
Chandra Perry. I'm a resident of the Mahler's building, which is directly across the alley from Brian's Ivy Hall and Finn's. There have been a number of issues in the past with noise, and most recently now, twice since March, I've had to contact the health department. They've actually closed them down until they cleaned up the alley because the trash was the dumpsters were overflowing and halfway across the alley, and I'm afraid we're going to end up with vermin. And I'm really concerned about the noise. I'm up at 4 in the morning, so it's kind of hard when you've got people partying, noise coming, and then once they close, they're taking the rubbish out and clanging and glass breaking and slamming down dumpster tops, and just makes it for a pretty miserable living experience, and I'm just concerned about it.
You feel a change of ownership would rectify that?
You know, I don't know what will rectify it. I'm just concerned about the noise and the rubbish. And, I mean, we're going from, you know, one owner to another, but they're not changing the model of it. My big concern on this is live music. How do you monitor that? How do you make sure that it's not too loud? And how do you turn it down?
I guess my question to you is, are you standing at the lectern in favor or in opposition at this point?
Well, it's not really either. I'm here voicing my concerns because of the past.
Okay.
And I don't want them to carry through to the future. And, you know, I want to see downtown survive. I own my condo. I, you know, bought into Lowell, and I believe that it's a happening place, but I don't want it to be happening at my sleep expense. I mean, that's the reality
Understandable.
You know, just like I said, I'm up at 4 in the morning, and in the past, it's really been, it was an issue. Past year or so, we haven't had as many problems, and I suspect it's probably because of other reasons, but.
Understandable. It's absolutely a major issue. Commissioner Krieger?
Have you considered getting an application for your smartphone that allows you to monitor the sound levels so that you can call the police and say, I pulled out my smartphone and, like I've got one on mine called DB, decibel 10th, and I can check the decibels, and you can then call that into the police?
There was a point where I called the police, and I had a police officer standing outside of my bedroom door, and I said, "Can you hear that?" And he said, "Yes," and he said, "But it's not rattling your windows."
Okay.
I mean, you call the police, they go down, they tell them to turn it down, the police leave, the music goes back up. And when you've got a whole night of that, and, you know, and I just want to be really clear, I've never complained on weekends. I have a firm belief we all need to eat. Weekends is their busy time. And, you know, I don't have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturday or Sunday. But, you know, Monday through Friday, I'm up at 4, and I just, you know, I'm concerned about the noise level. And it's a residential building, and I've got a couple that lives 2 floors up from me with 2 small kids.
Sure.
I can't imagine what it's, you know, could be like for them if people are not mindful of live music and DJs and whatnot.
Understandable.
How long have you lived there?
I've been there 4 years. I moved in right before the license was granted for Brian's Ivy Hall. And I just want to state that it was noted when Brian's Ivy first applied for their license, we are abutters to them, but we weren't notified because there was misinformation given to Mr. Wynn about whether we were abutters, and so the notices weren't sent out. And then like a year later, he spoke with, you know, one of the, I don't know, city engineers, and they told him at that point. Is that correct? Yes.
Yes, what it is that in the original application by Beck's Inc., doing business as Brian's Abbey Hall, initially it was understood that the building on the other side, and that there's a, what is, I don't know if it's fair to say a paper street, but there is the footprint of the building where Brian's Ivy Hall is located and the footprint of the building where
Mahler's
Loft, that land meets in the center in that alley. So there, after the fact, after the hearing on Brian's Abbey Hall, it was just found that it was an abutter. Had it been known at the time the application was originally filed, the applicant would have had to notify all of the residents in the building at Mahler's Loft. Ms. Perry would have been one of those residents notified of the hearing. And so but that became known after the actual license was approved and granted, issued.
Okay. Anything further?
What's that?
Anything further?
That's about it.
Thank you for your
That's all I
time.
got.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Anybody else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody here to speak in opposition? In opposition? If you wish to speak it.
Well, that's the next meeting.
Oh, actually, that'd be the next agenda item, so you can hold off on that for now. Anybody else in opposition? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Paperwork-wise, Secretary Wynn, as of today, it's come to the board's attention that the taxes for Finn's Pub have been paid, correct?
Yes, what I've learned through the city treasurer's office, that where there had been personal property tax owed to the city by Beck's Inc., that the payment had been made in full, and the city received a bank check covering not only that payment owed to the city by Beck's Inc. for personal property tax, but it also included another corporation's business personal property tax, Hayhurst Group Inc. So the city is current with that licensee for personal property tax.
Okay. Attorney Veloso or Rossetti, can you just chime in concerning a certificate of good standing and where we are at this point?
As Secretary Wynn pointed out, payment has been tendered, but we do not have a certificate of good standing from the Department of Revenue as to tax status. Accordingly, the ABCC would deem that incomplete. And as we know, any action undertaken by this authority would still be subject to review by the ABCC, and if the ABCC does not have the certificate of good standing, that would be considered an incomplete application, and nothing would be done by the ABCC. It couldn't be
As
approved.
much as this board would try to expedite this, I'm afraid that there's a possibility that the ABCC could just take this and send this right back to the board, and when we could be looking at weeks or months. Is that correct in my assumption?
That's a possible scenario.
And I don't want to do that to prospective buyers. I'd like to hear from the rest of the other commissioners, but it may not be a bad idea here to come back here in 2 weeks and making sure that the Department of Revenue has given Bex a certificate of good standing and facilitating this through the ABCC. But I'll yield the floor to other commissioners at this point.
I agree with you.
I also agree with you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Why don't we do this? Mr. Asadorian, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I did speak with Mr. Nguyen earlier, and he had mentioned that. We hadn't originally seen that in any of the paperwork, unfortunately.
Right.
Which, other than that, we would actually, I believe, have that right now, as I discussed it with Mr. Hayhurst Inc., and he does actually have the DOR in good standing.
Okay, well, I think what we have right now, and Attorney Rossetti or Veloso, maybe you can chime in here, but I think we have a certificate of good standing from the Secretary of State.
Yes, and that is in all your paperwork, so that was,
And that's
that
fine.
was clearly
I
presented.
think what my concern here is the certificate of good standing from the DOR.
That's correct.
So
And that's what I was referencing as well.
Okay.
In addition to bringing Bex Inc. back up to par with the state as far as filings, Hayhurst is, and of course I can only say what I've been told to some extent,
Sure.
has expressed the fact that he has in fact brought the DOR up to good standings as well.
Okay.
He's not available, unfortunately, today, so finding out about this today made it difficult to.
And I guess this has just been filed, and Secretary Nguyen can correct me, but the board just got this today, that it was marked by the Secretary of State. It was marked as either today or yesterday, so obviously the DOR hasn't gotten this. I'm trying to make this an easier process for you, so, we can get to business, but I think it's probably in your best interest, and I'll make a motion that we hold this back for 2 weeks, making sure that all your paperwork is ready to go, and it should be a quick, and once the ABC sees everything right there, it should be, the ABC should be able to okay this and stamp this. So, unless Attorney Rossetti or Veloso has other comments, I would make a motion that we'd suspend this for the next meeting on November 20th and take up this matter then. Second, Attorney Rossetti, Veloso, good with that?
Yes.
Second by Commissioner Krieger. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Commissioner, now open number 13 on our agenda is the public hearing on the application for the transfer of the all-alcoholic beverage restaurant license by Mill City Suds, Inc., doing business, Joel Asadorian, President, from Hayhurst Group, Inc., doing business as Finn's Pub, Kevin Hayhurst, President, for premises at 7686 Merrimack Street, unnumbered door north side, 2 unnumbered doors south side of the building. First floor, 1 room for restaurant and bar area, approximately 2,460 square feet. Second floor, 1 room for restaurant and bar area, approximately 2,797 square feet. Basement for storage. It is proposed that Daniel Lucas be approved as manager of record for Mill City Suds, Inc., and the following license applications were filed by Mill City Suds for 2014. Application for Carmen Bittler, entertainment and licensed restaurant for live music, disc jockey, and jukebox. Further, the License Commission, if it wishes, may vote on whether to enter into executive session to comply with or act under the authority of Mass General Law, Chapter 6, 172, Section 172.
Good evening. State your name.
Daniel Lucas.
Mr. Lucas, who are you?
Good, thanks.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we open up for public hearing once again? At this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Anybody like to speak in favor? Please come to the lectern. And once again, if you just state your name, please.
Chandra Perry.
John?
Again, I'm just here because of concerns with what's gone on with Finn's Pub in the past. I don't have the exact dates, but as soon as a month ago, they were shut down because of the trash in the alley. And it's the second time since March. And again, go back to we're a residential building with an alley that's probably as wide as where y'all are sitting, big enough to get a dump truck and a couple of dumpsters. And, you know, it's concerning.
Noted. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Anybody else like to speak in favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Mr. Azadorian, Mr. Lucas, I don't mean to be redundant, but I have a feeling we're in the same situation here concerning the DOR and the certificate of good standing. I will yield the floor to the commissioners, but I have a feeling we may want to go down the same route here and come back in 2 weeks and hear them both, have all the paperwork right there in front of us, stamp it, everything looks good, and I think I'd like to go that avenue, though I will yield the floor to the commissioners.
I agree with the chairman. I want to see the business moving in and prospering here and being good neighbors, but we've got this one little glitch and we need to get it finished. So I'd like to slip it, like you say, 2 weeks, second.
Any other commissioners?
I agree with you, Commissioner. We're going to table it for 2 weeks.
All right.
I have one question.
Absolutely.
Is there any way we can get in writing in addition exactly what Mr. Hayhurst needs to supply for this? I haven't seen anything really that references the DOR.
It's basically, right now, the DOR who's got to send the certificate of good standing.
Yeah, I'm not disputing it. I just want to so that Mr. Hayhurst can be presented with exactly what he needs, if you know what I mean. Besides me telling him.
I'll defer to the attorneys, but I mean, at this point, I don't think Mr. Hayhurst has to do anything, does he? I mean, we're just waiting for a DOR to say, yeah, we're okay.
That's my understanding, Mr. Chairman. DOR will get a record of the tax payments and issue the certificate of good standing in the ordinary course of the DOR's business.
And will that be sent to Mr. Hayhurst's attention as well, or his counsel? Or is that just public knowledge at that point?
I believe that would be granted to the taxpayer. In this case, it would be the entity paying taxes. So Mr. Hayhurst is a principal of that. I mean, he would therefore have notice of the certificate of good standing once it's issued.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
So does he actually physically needs to request it?
No.
I'm just trying to make sure.
What Attorney Rossetti just mentioned is that the member of the corporation will be notified that they are in fact in good standing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
And in fact, I would also add that we do have a record of a written application to receive a good standing certificate from the DOR that was submitted by Mr. Hayhurst.
So that'd be fine. So actually, you could probably get in touch with Mr. Wynn to get an update as well for your own edification. I mean, so I think on your end, you're fine, and I think Mr. Hayhurst will be notified in due time.
Yeah, I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying to figure out.
We're just trying to be real clean with this, Mr. Azadorian,
Absolutely,
and making sure everything, all I's are dotted and T's are crossed at this point.
And I don't blame you.
Okay.
I definitely,
All right.
and that's why I was just asking, is there anything other than the DOR that maybe that needs to be produced that we're not aware of at this time?
It's hard to get anything from Kevin.
If that in fact was the case, Secretary Wynn would have probably brought it to our attention. He has forwarded us all of your documents that are necessary. Once again, we're deferring this to the next 2 weeks, but from what I've seen, it looks like everything is in order. And I know Mr. Wynn is quite diligent in his job, and he would have told you if something is out of the ordinary. So, paperwork-wise, I think everything looks good. Secretary Wynn, do you want to?
Yes, and I just to reiterate. The ABCC always looks for a certificate of good standing from the Department of Revenue for a licensee of record. And they've had an advisory that they've made available to the public about that and explained the circumstances for having a certificate of good standing for a licensee in which an application by the local board has been approved for transfer. The local board has no control over the certificate of good standing and how it is to be obtained, but it's encouraged by the ABC that the local board have that in hand in terms of any paperwork that the local board will forward to the ABCC. So that's in the advisory that's on the ABC's website, and I can make that available to you, Mr. Asadorian, to Mr. Lucas, and to Mr. Hayhurst if need be. But I think, based on what Attorney Rossetti just mentioned about in the paperwork that was filed with the Secretary of State's office, he explicitly made a copy available to the Secretary of State's office of that application for a certificate of good standing for Bex Inc. And so it appears that it's just a matter of time before that certificate is available to Mr. Hayhurst. And I would assume he's also made a request for that with respect to Hayhurst Group Inc. These are the two documents for the two separate applications that you and your business partners have filed and have been heard by the licensing board tonight. That if they have that, and I sent the papers into Boston with the local board's approval, it makes life a lot better for you and for the License Commission as well.
Yeah, and just don't take my questioning as anything having to do with other than we're just trying to collect information more than anything else, obviously. The only other question I did have was, it's my understanding that in November, a application for renewal, it needs to be made, and that would be a interim period for us. Is it Hayhurst's or our responsibility to do that?
No, that's a whole nother matter, but it's important that it be filed. That is, it's a renewal application that Mr. Hayhurst, for the two corporations that hold the liquor licenses presently, Bex Inc. and Hayhurst Group, need to file that renewal application during the month of November. Mr. Hayhurst was sent notice by me or through the office of the renewal. He knows of the process, and it's just a matter of, all he has to do is sign the renewal application and send it back to me and make sure that I receive it no later than November 30th. It's to protect the rights to the license for the new year. That would make the transfer license a much smoother process, similar to having a certificate of good standing with the state. So it's in the best interest of Mr. Hayhurst, whether he sells you the business or wishes to keep the business, he wants that renewal application. That's
okay.
You want to convey that.
That would be on him, because we'd be in even if we did luckily enough get approvals on the 20th, we'd still be in an interim period where those would still be his responsibilities to do such.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Commissioner McCarthy made a motion to move this to November 20th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hogan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Gentlemen, we'll see you November 20th.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Last but not least, I think, is number 11 of our agenda, which is with respect to the alcohol beverages regulations for licenses issued by the Lowell License Commission.
Hold on one second, Secretary Nguyen. We may want to defer on the other one that we had concerning Old Gold Silver. Was that the other one? What was number 5.
Number 5, is anyone here for Lowell Memorial Auditorium? No. Well, let me just give but I don't know if you want to hear this on that matter. Essentially, Global Spectrum has booked these performers for the events to be held as scheduled, as you see it at the auditorium.
Global Spectrum is the new management.
They are the management company that the city has retained to take care of the day-to-day operation of the auditorium.
Do you think we can give Mr. Vasky a call?
I'm sorry?
Might be a good idea to give Mr. Vasky a call tomorrow morning.
I will point it out in fact, sent a notice to the office of this agenda, and I got a response by email that they would be here, meaning representatives of the auditorium would be present. Obviously, they have not appeared. Just for the sake of discussion, or just for the point of reference, these are applications for public amusement. They're shows. The Miss Massachusetts pageant is an ongoing event for 2 days. It's basically, I think it's almost a 12-hour day for each of the 2 dates for the event itself. And it does include a Sunday as well, but that's a Sunday license application to be approved by the city manager and the state Department of Public Safety. There's no fee for these licenses because of the contractual arrangements the city has with Global Spectrum. There had been a meeting with a representative for the city, a representative of the law department, not these two gentlemen that are present here today, but another representative of the law department, and myself, discussing the need for events that are to be scheduled at the auditorium to have an application filed for public amusement if it's warranted. These are 3 events that applications have been filed. The question is, and I know this was a part of a discussion the board had at the last meeting on regulations and on proposed revisions of the regulations, or at least the intent was the hearing we had on regulations was to allow for input from the licensees. And I know, Chairman Dakota, you had brought up a matter of whether it was necessary to have people appearing each and every time for applications. I'm not saying that that's the reason why no one showed up. They heard what you said, or when you're thinking out loud on the matter, maybe they took it literal.
Well, I know the prior management company, I'm sure there would have been somebody.
There was always somebody here when prior management. In fact, it was always a pleasure to deal with the prior management.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we approve this based upon Mr. Vasky coming in and meeting with Mr. Wynn, who will convey our general approach to these kinds of issues, and on his understanding that he will show and explain at our next meeting. Thank you.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Hogan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner Krieger.
On number 11, the alcohol beverage regulations for licenses issued by the Lowell License Commission, specifically a follow-up to hearing of October 23rd, 2014. For discussion and a motion for updating regulations, posting amendments to regulations on the city website, local cable telecast, email to advertise meetings of the License Commission. And I know, if I may just start off by just saying that I went through what was proposed by Commissioner Krieger with the regulations. I don't know if you had a chance to look at them. I have hard copies if you want to see them. And it's just aside from that, the issue with respect to the city website, and I need to sit down with the people who handle the city's website, MIS office. There's certain people that deal with it, and try to see what arrangements can be done with that website to make it a little bit more accessible to the public. I looked at what the city clerk's website offers. I'm not saying it's the best either. It's certainly a lot better than what the License Commission can show on its webpage. But if for the simplest aspects to making accessible, like minutes of the meetings or their agendas, so that they stand out, so that the individual who's looking for that doesn't have to go to A to B to C to D. And that's where it stands right now. You have to go A, B, C, D, and there's no, unless you have the actual web address to go right to it. For an outsider, the individual is basically A, B, C, D, E. The other thing is with regards to advertising the meetings, local cable television. I don't have access to that. I don't know what that would generate from the office. I'm not so sure about that. I can speak with Mr. Ducey, who's the director for the local programming, and see what they can be posting, anything with respect to the License Commission, as far as, I don't know whether you want to see the agenda on the web, on this local cable station, or just the fact that there is a meeting to be held at the License Commission, at City Council chamber, that type of thing.
I guess I'll defer to Commissioner Krieger on that.
I'm not sure I can get my green light on. There we go. You've got my sympathy because you're the one that has to do the interfacing, and I understand the problems. And I applaud you exploring these different avenues. Maybe one will work. With LTC, I think that at least having an announcement of the meetings would be good if we could get the agenda up there for a day or two when the new agenda comes out. If Mr. Ducey can make that happen, I think that would be great. And I think that you're heading in the right direction.
And so what I would do is I'll make that known to Mark Ducey and see what he can offer with this for that. In the meantime, I'll make a point. And once the regulations are set up, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the corrections or the updates. And once you've done that, and if you're satisfied, then we can have that posted and go from there. I think basically, aside from the regulations themselves, the whole idea of making the License Commission more accessible by way of the website it's a work in progress, and we'll just see what happens. Hopefully, in the first of the year, we'll have a better set up.
I may have gotten the wrong versions, but I did a merge between what I thought was your version 2 and the original, and frankly, I didn't see many changes. So it may be possible that there's a
You asked for it.
I asked for it. Now I'm getting it. All right.
Thank you.
Commissioner Krieger, it may be a not bad idea, maybe if each commissioner take a look at these and maybe we talk about it at the next meeting? What do you think?
Absolutely agree.
All right.
And I've also sent it by way of email as well.
Yep, to get it.
So you have it.
So why don't we table this, Ryan, for next meeting? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hogan. All in
I had one question for Mr. Nguyen, and that's the 1996 item, which I did get and I looked at, and I think he wants to incorporate, or have you incorporated this in already?
No, but what I was thinking, and in fact, I'm glad you brought that up, is I know there was a question posed to Attorney Beloso at the last meeting on what Chairman Dakota had questioned about whether we need to have an applicant reappear, particularly if that applicant has been one who has been before the board, say at the first of the year, with a series of applications for an event for the same type of license, specifically special one-day alcohol license, and having that person reappear at the next meeting or and then following month and the following month after that, if they've continued to file those applications. And I didn't think to bring it up at the meeting when we discussed it, when that was brought up, but that regulation was something that the License Commission had requested in 1996, and at that time, the Law Department and Assistant Solicitor Dave Fenton, actually drafted the language in that regulation where it would require an applicant to appear before the License Commission. So if the commission is looking to maybe be a little bit less stringent on that, that may be the way to work that out, work it with the language in some way, shape, or form to make it so that when I'm dealing with an applicant, I'm not going to be saying, well, you got to come.
Right. Attorney Veloso?
I'm still currently researching the issue and looking at potential options. I have taken a look at the state law regulating the issuance of special one-day licenses. That would be, my apologies, I just need to pull it up. Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 138, Section 14. There's no specific provision in the state law per se requiring an in-person appearance before the License Commission. However, there are some considerations with the state law that have to be taken into account. One of them being that the person who holds the license must be affiliated with the nonprofit organization, and that such an application cannot be held through proxy, meaning that one person who's not affiliated with the organization sets themselves out to hold the license anyway, and then proceeds to, say, violate state law, perhaps underage serving or something like that. And it only is discovered later on that that person, in fact, had never been authorized in the first place to possess the license. So my reading of the proposed 1996 regulation was with that issue in mind, being that with these License Commission sessions being recorded, the License Commission could connect a person to an organization, so that you wouldn't run into situations where someone would come in and claim to be a representative of organization, only for the License Commission to discover that that person was in fact either acting as a proxy or in fact was lying to the commission that they were representative. So I'm still looking into the issue and potential options that could be available to the License Commission regarding that in-person requirement with the License Commission if they want a special one-day license. There are reservations as to relaxing that requirement, though, as I've just mentioned, but we're still looking at sort of the contours of the issue.
All right. So if we're going to look at this as a report of progress and it was seconded by Commissioner Hogan that we take a look again in 2 weeks.
Yes.
And, all right. And all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner Hogan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you and good night.